so she's facing a hostile work environment. Unfortunately, it appears that it does impact a protected class, her race, as evidenced by quotes by players in the league. And there is a federal element here to where the government can intervene.
Put up the picture full mass. That is your Karen of the year. Literally making a federal case out of a file. A file. Bill, how much did he pay you to come do that commercial on your program? I thought he was playing. I thought it was a setup to a joke. But when I saw you at your half stance, Bill, I knew this was real.
Caitlin Clark has tripled her team's value, boosted WNBA app engagement by over 600%, and driven subscriptions up 400%. But what if I told you she's also taking 17% of the league's hardest fouls? That's more than double anyone else.
It shows that it's normal to assume that there would be some degree of resentment. However, the concern is that resentment is then leading to targeting on the court. There's a lot of jealousy and animosity, and that can be understood, right? If you've been an MVP of the league in the past, yet you were unable to achieve the visibility and perhaps the endorsements that Caitlin Clark has received right out of the gate, it's happening at a higher rate for Caitlin Clark than anyone else. And unfortunately, it's creating a textbook hostile work environment for Caitlin Clark. And under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act.
Quick favor before we move on. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 83% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video.
And former staffer for Ted Cruz and Marsha Blackburn wrote an opinion for the Journal entitled, quote, "The WNBA and Caitlin Clark's Civil Rights." A game. Part of the game. Sean McLean, lobbyist. He's a lobbyist. In the column, he argues that the WNBA, quote, "has fostered a hostile workplace," end quote. For Clark, because she gets fouled a lot by Black players.
A top lawyer says this isn't just a basketball problem. It could be a Title VII federal case. So why is the league letting their biggest star get knocked around with no whistle? Let's break down the numbers, the law, and the risk the WNBA can't afford to ignore. Imagine one player walking into a league that's been grinding for decades, and overnight the numbers start going crazy. That's what happened here. The WNBA app's engagement didn't just tick up. It shot up 6 times higher. Subscriptions didn't rise a little, they quadrupled.
Congressional investigation into the WNBA would target her out of racial animus. He would go on to cite Supreme Court cases and called for a full.
If the WNBA continues to allow this treatment of Caitlin Clark, you really think they're going to be silent?
The team she plays for suddenly became worth 3 times what it was before she arrived. We're talking about a rookie who isn't just selling tickets. She's changing the entire financial picture of the league. That's why people call her the most valuable asset the WNBA has ever had. But at the same time, she's taking more hits than anyone else. Here's where it gets strange. In her first year, 17% of all the league's flagrant or hard fouls were committed against her, not just regular fouls. The heavy contact, high-impact ones.
They have an argument. And do we doubt that at his discretion, at his disposal, if he finds this to be an issue that's politically expedient for him, that Trump won't use this to feed his base? Now, before you go any further, I'm not here saying that the case will be won by the government if it got to that point or anything like that. I'm saying they have a case.
That sounds like a yes or boss commentary to me. What you afraid of, dear brother? You're the in-your-face guy. Tell it like it is.
To put that in perspective, her closest peer in that category, another high-usage guard, wasn't even above 8%. That's not a small gap. That's double. And when you watch the games, you can't ignore it. Drives to the basket where she takes a forearm to the ribs and somehow there's no whistle. Loose ball scrambles where she's knocked flat and the refs just let play roll on. One game in particular sticks. She's sprinting down the lane on a fast break, catches the pass clean, goes up for a layup, and a defender bodies her midair. She hits the floor hard, slides almost to the baseline signage, looks at the ref expecting the foul call, but it never comes. Everyone in the arena saw the contact. Everyone on the bench saw it. But the officials just kept the game moving. On another night, she's fighting through screens, takes an elbow to the side of the head, stumbles back, and still no call. Those things pile up when you're playing 30-plus minutes every night. It's not just fans noticing. Broadcasters are talking about it in real time. Rebecca Lobo said during a broadcast that officials were letting too much go against her and that it's impacting the way she plays. That's a Hall of Famer calling it like she sees it. Even opposing players have side-eyed the situation.
A new wave in this country is elevating white grievances so that white folks truly believe they are the real victims of racism. I do not blame Caitlin Clark for this. She just wants the ball. I blame the people. They are purposely making black women out to be the villains in Caitlin Clark's story. That's why all of these pundits keep running with the narrative that these women need to be grateful, who are clutching their pearls at competition and can't stop their sexist mindset of how women are supposed to compete.
Some veterans aren't exactly thrilled with the golden goose treatment she's getting off the court. Endorsement deals, national commercials, and media coverage that outshines longtime stars. That resentment shows. When players feel like someone is being handed the spotlight, the physicality can get dialed up. And then there's the deeper layer. Asia Wilson pointed out that race plays a part in why Clark is receiving this level of attention. That's not an offhand remark. That's a two-time MVP adding a social context to what's happening. It changes the conversation from being only about basketball to being about perception, cultural narratives, and the way the league markets its stars. When those things collide, resentment, extra physical play, inconsistent officiating, you don't just have a hard rookie year. You might have something bigger. Sean Milan, an employment lawyer, said the pattern fits the legal definition of a hostile work environment under Title VII. That's a federal law meant to protect employees from discrimination and unsafe conditions. And the kicker? Pro athletes aren't exempt. This isn't a technicality. If there's evidence the league isn't ensuring a safe working environment, it becomes much more than missed calls. Now think about what that means. If you've got a player who's producing massive revenue, fueling league growth, and at the same time is consistently exposed to unnecessary physical risk without the same protection other players get, that's an issue you can't just ignore in a post-game interview. It's something that can be brought beyond the court, into legal forums where the rules are different and the stakes get higher. If the WNBA doesn't address this from the inside, looking at officiating standards, player safety protocols, and how they manage physical play, then the next step might not come from coaches, referees, or even the commissioner's office. It might come from people who've never set foot on a basketball court, but have the authority to make binding decisions.